I'm always working to make the learning that we do more cognitively demanding, and I do that one by starting to make sure that it's student-centered. So I really try to gauge, what do they know about a certain topic, and then really getting them to come up with their own questions about what it is they want to learn more about. And I love getting students to ask questions, because I feel like when they start to ask questions, when you ask a question, there's some level of analysis that has to happen in your thinking first before you can formulate that next question. And you get different layers of questions that get asked, but I feel like when they ask the questions, it's sort of revealing of what they already know and where they're at with their own learning. It's getting them to ask the questions, but also what questions do I need to ask the students that don't give things away, but that really stimulate and get them to push their own thinking a little bit more. So asking fewer questions, but asking the right question.
A cognitively demanding task requires students to think deeper than a one-word answer. Oftentimes in my class, it sounds simple, but I'm asking why and how. And those two questions require a student to really go to the next level of explaining the topic we might be on. They were able to measure the data and calculate it, and then submit a presentation, a very comprehensive presentation on their POSTA car and why it traveled the distance it did, and how much potential energy it had, and how the mass affected that amount of potential energy, which transformed into kinetic energy. And they loved it. They're building just to be able to get to this point. They're working in groups, and there was never a dull moment, but there was also never a point where we were disconnected from what we were learning in the class. And so I asked the child, I said, well, what do you think of science? And he said, it's hard. Like, there was no denying, like, the class was very difficult for him. But knowing that something is challenging and still liking that challenge, those two things can coexist. And oftentimes they do in our lives. And so I saw that as a really strong moment of how pushing a student and helping them to see that they can do it is it's the essential role of a teacher.